Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. The wait is over.
Let's get this thing started.
Go!
Hello, everyone. We are live for the In or Out Sports Debates Best of Episodes 21 through 30 highlights. I am your host, Drew Willingham, as we are live on this Tuesday evening. It looks like it is 8:09 p.m. Eastern Time, and I am here to bring you the highlights within the first 100 episodes as we celebrate 100 mother-fathered episodes of this show. We reached 100 episodes last week, so I figured we can go back down memory lane and look at the highlights of what got us to this moment. We're going to start this off with episode 21. And with that episode, we had just started talking about the best athlete to wear certain numbers 4 episodes prior. And in this particular episode, I had Xander Kid NBA Anthony on for the first time, son of Golden Boy Greg Anthony. And he was on, and we talked about the best to ever wear the number 21 as he was on for episode 21. Let's take a look at what we thought, who, in our opinion, was the best to ever wear number 21 of all NBA athletes. I like to call this the By the Numbers segment, where depending on what episode we're on, we discuss, who is the greatest. And with this, since we're at an all-NBA episode, I'd say with this one, we've got Tim Duncan is the best to ever wear the number 21 of all sports athletes. How do you feel about that, Xander? Are you in or are you out on this?
I think I'm in on this one. So he is the best power forward of all time. He's probably the most fundamentally sound athlete of all time, if you actually think about it. But I had him and Deion Sanders kind of like back and forth. Because Deion Sanders, he was that guy. He was that guy. But, nobody is beating anything with Tim Duncan. Who's guarding Tim Duncan in the post? Honestly, who's actually guarding him? So, yeah, that's the main reason. He's so fundamental, it's insane, looking at his highlights, of course.
Absolutely. I totally agree with this. I'm in on this as well. And like I've said on previous episode, Tim Duncan is the catalyst for those 5 NBA championships that the Spurs have, right? I feel like he played on 3 different types of teams. You had the first type where David Robinson was there, and he learned how to be a great basketball player there. And David Robinson got the win on his way out in 99, and I think he was there for 03 for the second one, I believe, if I'm not wrong. I think he was there for the first 2. I know he was there for the first one, but I believe he was there for at least the first 2. Then the second tier, you have Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and, those guys that were there to form, they weren't the big 3, but they were the first trio, of our modern era that you could really think of that weren't considered a big 3 that you spend a lot of money on, kind of like the super team that LeBron spent time on. And then the third tier, I would say, would be when he also had those guys that I just previously mentioned at the end of their career, but you added Kawhi Leonard to the mix, for him to get the last couple of championships. So when you put all that in perspective, he helped mold multiple champions. Okay,
Yeah.
not just championships, but champions and people. He's also into coaching now with the Spurs and doing things, to give back to the game. So with all that to be said, you can give an argument for not just him, but for Kevin Garnett and Dominique Wilkins. But when you put all that into perspective, they don't have the clout that Tim Duncan does.
Yeah,
So
there's no Toronto Kawhi without San Antonio. There's literally no.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So what do you think? Do you guys think that Tim Duncan was the best to ever wear the number 21 of all athletes in the NBA, past, present, past and present pretty much? They can't predict the future. We don't have a time machine like Doc Brown and Marty from Back to the Future, but let's see what you guys have to say in the comments. Looks like Ike doesn't give a fuck is back, and Ike says, yo. Well, what's up, Ike? Thank you for joining us tonight on this best of episodes edition of the Inner Out Sports Debate, as we just discussed episode 21. He says, let's go. Well, thanks, Ike, for tuning in. We appreciate you being here live as we review the highlights of the Inner Out Sports Debate. Kevin Garnett was the best to ever wear 21, hands down. Ike, you want to compare Kevin Garnett, who has 1 ring, to Tim Duncan, who has 5 rings.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Come on, get the father out of here. You want to say Kevin Garnett was the best to ever wear 21, hands down. Come on now.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Absolutely. I can't pay you enough to say this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
When it comes to that take, because Kevin Garnett is not the best to ever wear 21. Hell, he wore that with the Timberwolves. He wasn't even wearing 21 when he won the championship with the Celtics. Get out of here, Ike. Not going to take that one. So, other than that, guys, we discussed episodes 21 highlight, with that being Tim Duncan, the best to ever wear number 21. Let's go ahead and take this into episode 22. And with this one, I had P. Alexander Wally on one half of the Undisputed Champions with Corey Mann. He was on for the first time in this episode. In episode 22, we discussed who we felt was the best to ever wear number 22 all time in the NBA as well. Let's see who we have for this. Moses Malone is the greatest player to ever wear the number 22 in NBA history, not of all sports, but in NBA history. How do you feel about that? Are you in or are you out on that with Moses Malone?
I'm going to say in.
Okay. The floor.
But I feel like there's a couple of players. If you go to Clyde Drexler, you got Elgin Baylor, of course. Then I would say in a better team setting, somebody that thrived in that environment too was Tayshaun Prince, who wore the 22. I feel like he's a talent, but I don't consider Rudy Gay like a prominent star, even though he wore the number 22. But I would say, other than Moses, I would have to give props to Tayshaun Prince, because he understood how to be the glue. He understood how to be that missing scorer, or that extra defender, or if Ben or she couldn't do something on the boards, he was that guy that was getting that extra 10, 15 rebounds, whether it was assists or just anything, man. He was just a very, very tough player to have on your team, man. So I think Moses came up a lot different based on the environment being what it was back in that time. It was a different landscape, whether it was just toughness, the physicality. Everybody was aggressive. It wasn't ticky-tack, soft touch foul. Everything is a flagrant now these days. It's just, I don't like it. So I feel like Moses was able to bang and be as aggressive, and I feel like he was that silent motor to those Philly teams. You know what I'm saying? Everybody would always go to Ivoroni. You got Mo Cheeks. You had Doc, of course, who I think is probably the best or the greatest Sixer ever. But I think Moses was that silent motor that was that, he was to Philly how Kareem was to the Lakers, where nobody really wanted to not defy, but nobody really pushed back against Cat. I feel like Moses was that constant in the Philly locker room at that time. Moses was that guy.
For Philly, if this was based on Philly, I would 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
But with this being in all NBA history, I disagree. I'm out. You named some good basketball players in there with Clyde Drexler and Elgin Baylor, and one of those you were correct on, in my opinion. You just didn't pick him at one. And I have to go with Elgin Baylor. With Elgin Baylor, man, he scored 61 points in Game 5 of the 1962 NBA Finals, a season which he only played on weekends due to his service as an Army Reserve. Come on, man. When you're fighting for our country and you're getting NBA championship, or you're fighting for the NBA championship and you're fighting for our country at the same time, you got to give it to our man, Mr. Patriotic. We just celebrated 4th of July last week here on the In or Out Sports Debate with Mr. Jarrell Owens as a Mr. Patriot here. And as I'm going to get animated here on the show with Elgin Baylor, I'm going to say, my man, that you are saying that because you are a homer for the Philadelphia 76ers, and you should be picking my man, Elgin Baylor, as the pick and being out on this so we could play the special clip that we should play if we were both out on a subject. But we can't because you had to go with the homer pick and say Moses Malone.
Look, man, Elgin Baylor, that's a totally different episode at a totally different time of year. That's a Black history fact. That's what that Elgin Baylor stat is. But collectively, that's where I went. Like, all the respect and admiration for him, of course. I just feel like at that time, and even now looking back in hindsight, it's still not as appreciated or even recognized as much as it should be. But overall, to his team, I don't know if the longevity is the same. You know what I'm saying? As far as like how I said, just that constant impact, I'm not too sure. And wasn't Elgin Baylor a Laker?
He was a Laker, but he played for 14 years. So he did have a pretty sizable career, and he fought for our country. That's why I got to give it to him on that, because, with everything he did, Moses only got you one. I mean, he's still talented. But and he's from VA, so I got to give you all that. With all that, he's from Petersburg.
I see. Okay, so now you're talking about me being showing favoritism to home.
I should favor him because I'm in South Chesterfield. I'm not far from that. So I mean,
all right. So tell me this then, 1-on-1. Who are you taking? You taking Moses or you taking Elgin Baylor?
I'm taking Elgin Baylor.
All right, yeah, that 61 was kind of tough. I
got to. 61 in the finals while being in the military at the same time, and he could only play in the NBA on weekends. The schedule was already set for the NBA, but he could only play on weekends because he was fighting for our country Monday through Friday. So you're going through the grind Monday through Friday, and then you're fighting on the court after that on the weekends. You got all my respect working 7 days a week during the NBA season and then taking them to the finals. Come on, man.
He ain't take them to the finals now.
He helped lead them to the finals. We'll say that.
All right.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So what do you think, guys? Do you think that I was right with my take on Elgin Baylor as the best to ever wear 22 of anybody in NBA sports history? Or do you think Wally was right when he said that Moses was the best to wear 22? Let's see what we've got in the comments. We got Joseph Raymond in the house. Joseph on Facebook viewing the show. Thank you very much for tuning in there, Joseph. And Ike says Moses was trash. Come on, man.
That's terrible.
The side of
Damn!
No way, Ike. No way Moses was trash. And you say Elgin was trash too.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Come on.
Let me talk to you.
Getting a little out of control. There is no way that Elgin nor Moses were both trash.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Stone Cold's in the corner just saying,
What?
absolutely.
What?
A little bit of
Yeah. Yeah.
Elgin was not trash either, man. And your next comment, you say Prince was okay as 22 for the Pistons. I mean, I'll actually give you that one. He was okay. But if you would have said he was a GOAT, I would have told you.
Stay off the weed.
Because when it comes to your choice and picks for numbers, you definitely have proven that you should be.
Yeah. Fire.
Let's get that on out of here. I thank you for your participation, though, at least. I mean, at least I can tolerate that. Anybody else has any comments, let us know. We still have 8 more episodes to review. We just reviewed 21 and 22. We're going to go ahead and take this into 23. And Paul Schofield joined me for the first time. And when Paul joins me here, we talk about a little bit of NASCAR for episode 23. And with this one, the topic was Rusty Wallace is the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. You'll see how animated I disagree with this topic, how animated I get when I disagree with this topic. It's pretty interesting. You shall see on the other end of this one as we get into episode 23 with Paul Schofield.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I forgot about that. I love that. I love that slide every time. Every time it pops up. Surprise. Well, surprise for this one for the bonus. We got Rusty Wallace is the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. How do you feel about this, Pisco? Are you in or are you out on this?
I want so bad to say in, but I can't. I am out. I'll tell you why. This dude, he is my favorite all-time driver. I love Rusty Wallace to death, but he's only got one championship. He has, I think, 25, maybe 26. Is it 25? Yeah, 25 years of experience, okay? He went winless for 64 races, was his longest winless streak. The greatest of all time don't do that. He has 55 wins, 706 starts. He only has one championship. He did win Rookie of the Year in '84. I will give him that. He had a solid, awesome career, but you have race straw drivers like Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon, for God's sakes. They have won championships. They have continuously been in the races. They have continuously been in top 5 seasons per points. Rusty Wallace hasn't done that. I can't. There's literally no argument that you can make to make this make sense for him being the greatest race car driver ever. You just can't.
So who is your greatest NASCAR driver of all time then?
I want to say it's got to be Dale Earnhardt Jr. I love the way he raced. I loved everything about his style. He went out there and you get out of my way or you're going into the wall style. I loved it. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Well, with this, when it comes to Rusty Wallace is the greatest NASCAR driver of all time, I've got to disagree with this as well. I'm out. Rusty Wallace was definitely a great driver for us to watch growing up as kids in the 90s. He was definitely great then. By the time we got to the 2000s, that was when his winless streak was coming up, and he was not doing as great as he was in the 80s and the 90s. However, I do disagree with who your greatest NASCAR driver of all time is, Paul. Why not give love to the king? Richard Petty was 7 championships, won 200 races. He raced for 35 years from 1958 to 1992. How do you not give it to Richard Petty, one of the greatest families of all time, with Lee Petty in my top 10? Okay, I even made a top 10 for this, but I'm not going to go through it just because of time restraints. But I will say Richard Petty is in my top 10, and I just almost had his dad in the top 10. I got him at 12. I did 15. I said, Drew, you're going to stop at 15. But I had him at 12. And nowhere near that is Kyle Petty, okay? Even though he's in that lineage of the greatest family in NASCAR, in my opinion, he is not anywhere close to my 100 if I even had to make a 100 list. But Lee Petty, his dad, you got the father, probably the best father-son duo of NASCAR in the Petty family, in my opinion. I mean, people are gonna argue and say Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr., but when you really look at the amount of wins and the amount of years that they have invested in this sport, you have to give it to the Petty family as the greatest family. And in my opinion, you got to give it to Richard Petty as the greatest driver of all time. No Jimmy Johnson, it's Richard Petty.
I can't disagree with you on that either, because he's number 2 on mine.
Now,
that was one of those arguing points. I made that decision this morning.
Before we go forward, what made you put Dale Earnhardt Jr. over Richard Petty with everything I just said? The floor is.
Okay, for the record, it was not junior; it was senior.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, you said senior. I thought you said junior. Okay.
No.
Okay,
junior's
senior.
not even. Junior's way down there.
Okay,
way
good.
Down there.
That's why I got so animated. Okay, the floor is yours now.
All right, Dale Earnhardt is the epitome of a race car driver in the '90s. He was aggressive. He was, I'm going to go out there and get you. You have to outsmart me. You have to outman me. You have to outpower me type driver. If you are not racing dirty, you're not going to beat Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt was a quote-unquote dirty driver. I'm not saying he went out there and wrecked everybody, but if he needed to tap your rear bumper to get you kind of loose to go on the inside or outside to get around you, that's what he's going to do. He's going to do everything he possibly can to get around you. He's got 6 championships. Bless his soul, he lost his life at the Daytona 500. I believe it was turn 3 or turn 4. He might have. Who was he? He was blocking for his son, was he not? Wasn't he trying to block Sterling Marlin for his son?
He was, and Sterling Marlin was the one. Yep, that was the one. Yep, you called it right on the head. It was Sterling Marlin who was up in there,
and for the record, Sterling Marlin got a lot of hate for that.
He did.
But he did not intentionally wreck him. If you go back and watch it, he did not intentionally wreck him. He got loose, lost it. That's something an unexperienced driver would do, not necessarily an experienced driver like Sterling Marlin was. But he made a mistake. He made a mistake, let the car get away from him, and it went right into Dale. So no love lost for Sterling Marlin.
See, it was back and forth for me with Earnhardt even at 2, but I got Earnhardt at 3. I got David Pearson. I got David Pearson at 2. Yeah, because when you look at David Pearson, he raced for 28 years, only one more year more than Earnhardt did, but he won 105 races and 3 championships. Now, Earnhardt did win 7 championships, but he only got 76 wins throughout that 27-year career. So that's why it was tough for me with going back and forth. Like, I almost had Pearson at 3 and Earnhardt at 2, but when you look at 35 years from the 50s to the 90s. That is 4 different decades. That is 5. That is 5 different evolutions of cars, 5 different types of race, rosters that you've dealt with throughout that time. 200 victories. I got to give it to the king. Richard Petty will be the king until somebody else wins 200 wins and 7 different championships, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with you.
So
I can't. There's nothing that I can argue Richard Petty with. There's nothing, absolutely nothing.
It's like that one wild card you just can't. You can't trump it. You just can't do it. So
it's like there's nobody's gonna say Rusty Wallace is the greatest ever because of what you just said. Richard Petty existed.
It's like Tom Brady with football. Like, we want to say Peyton Manning's the greatest, but Tom Brady existed. If Tom Brady didn't exist, Peyton Manning would be the greatest greatest quarterback of our generation ever. But because Tom Brady was given that chance when Drew Bledsoe went down, that will never happen. All right, guys. Well, let me know what you think here in the comments. And it looks like we have some comments to review here when it comes to this topic right here. And it looks like it went back and forth between Melvin and Ike here on YouTube. And it looks like Ike says, now this is something that I can get behind. Rusty is and always will be the There's absolutely no way that I can get behind that, Ike. That's why I'm laughing at you. That's when it, you gotta see what else we got up in here. Melvin says, Ike, what in the hell are you talking about? Absolutely. Like, I'm still wondering what you're talking about, Ike, because you really
Stay off the weed.
What?
Stay off the weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for chiming in there, Melvin. Glad to see you could make it on for the show as well. The Petties are the GOAT family. The Petties are the GOAT of all families. I agree with Drew. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, because when it comes to that topic right there,
Let me talk to you.
I said plenty against Paul. And I also said it, if you looked back on yesterday's showing of episodes 1 through 10. In episode 3, Rob and I discussed the Petties as well when it came to that as well. And I had to discuss it with Pisco because, we had Rusty Wallace as the topic, but I had to argue the fact that it was the Petties who were the greatest family of all time. So let's see what other comments we got up in here. It looks like Melvin comes back with Drew with the fire on Paul and laughs. Yes, I definitely brought the fire when it came to talking about the Petties because I just believe that, even though the Earnhardt family is well established within the sport of NASCAR, it's much different when you bring the Petties up in there. Petties, for many, many, many decades, had a very big impact. It was mainly Richard, but Lee Petty was a part of the beginning of NASCAR. And, of course, Kyle squirmed his way in there and tried to do it.
Acknowledge me.
We acknowledge that you are nowhere even as great as your all-time legendary father there, Kyle Petty. And Melvin also says Paul concedes. Yeah, Paul conceded at the end because you can't really argue the Petty family when it comes to the Earnhardt family, when it comes to the greatest family of NASCAR. And Melvin says, I said what I said. Well, Melvin, when it comes to what Ike has to tell you, basically just look at it as this.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Thank you guys for chiming in here in the live comments. Helps keep it a little bit more fun for me as we review these episodes. We've gone through 23 now, 21 through 23 in the books for this particular edition for this episode. And we're going to take this into episode 24 for our next one. And with this one, we have Willie Mays as the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 24 of all athletes in all of sports. And Corey Mann was on with me on this one. It had a very good take when it came to his argument being Kobe Bryant was the best to wear 24. We'll see who got the fire into this one in episode 24. By the numbers for this episode, because we are in episode 24. Do you feel that Willie Mays is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 24 in sports? How do you feel about this, Corey? Are you in or are you out on Willie Mays being the greatest to ever wear 24?
Out. I've been watching sports all my life. Okay. I'm a fairly relatively young man, as my homies call me, young man. But I've seen a lot of stuff growing up. We got Ken Griffey Jr., Moses Malone, Ricky Henderson, Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, Rick Barry. Most of those folks I just named off, I watched growing up. But there is one that I watched his entire career and pretty much my entire life since I was a young kid, that wore the number 24, that has 5 rings and impacted the game in a way that'll never be the same again. And that is Kobe Bean Bryant. Rest in peace, Mamba and Gigi. In my opinion, from what I have seen from start to finish, Kobe is the best to ever wear number 24. The man, we all know what Mamba mentality is. We all know about his grit, his toughness. After him and Shaq split up, people thought that he was dead in the water, that he was the dead weight, a part of that duo. Come to find out, he was not. He was a different type of level of competitive that you hadn't seen since Jordan. And to be honest with you, I would say probably a little more fierce than Jordan, which a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me on that. But Kobe was a savage. Kobe didn't care. You talk about practice, like how he would talk to his teammates, call them soft, and I can't say some things that's on because we're live right now. I don't want to get your show blocked. But he said some crazy things, man. But he created moments that we will never forget. Who else in the history of sports has went in and said, okay, this is my last game of my entire career. I'm gonna drop 60. Like nobody. You know what he was doing for the WNBA, which I think would be further along if he was still alive right now. What he was doing with his daughter Gigi, what he was doing with all the girls, being a girl dad, etc. Kobe's legacy will forever be remembered, and I hope that we don't forget his daughter while we're remembering him, because that day was tragic. Still, as a dad, you know, wrecks me to my heart to this day. But as far as what I've seen in my lifetime, Kobe Bryant is the best to ever wear 24.
You know, Corey, how old are you? Let me just ask you straight up, how old are you? You say young man. How old are you? 31? I've only got 4 years on you. I'm 35, my man. And I cannot believe that you went with Kobe. It is a no-brainer. I'm in. For what Willie Mays had to go through, in his career. He did not play in the same type of era and civil rights and everything that Kobe had to go through. What Kobe was able to enjoy as a little bit more of a peaceful world was set by the earlier ones that involved Willie Mays going through the struggle that we don't need to get on here, because we've seen it plenty on so many different outlets, and we already can sympathize with it. We only have to go, but we already know how we're going to go down that path. But the point is that Willie Mays is a tougher individual and had a very, very long career. Kobe had a long career. Kobe played 20 years, same organization, okay, and had a 60-point game on his way out, okay, in his last game. I give you that. But I'm in on the fact that Willie Mays is the best because he had a long career. He helped mold Barry Bonds, okay? He's his godfather. He helped mold the next generation to where even though Barry did what he did, okay, and he cheated a little bit. All right, we're just gonna call it for what it is. Oh, Barry cheated a little bit. However, he was a very good natural talent before all that, and even had numbers to lock him in the Hall of Fame before he cheated. And it was all because of the mentorship, and not just his father, Bobby Bonds, who was another great player who was also a coach who had a pretty good career, but not like his godfather, Willie Mays. So because of what he did for the next generation, giving back and coaching, and if Kobe would have had more time, and what happened to him was tragic, and I was a Kobe fan too, but if Kobe would have been around another 10, 15, 20 years, been able to give back to the game more and what he was preparing to do and what he was starting to do as he was transitioning out of the game, I would give it to you 10, 15, 20 years from now. But as of right now, in this moment in 2022, with the impact that Willie Mays has had in the entirety of his life to the game of baseball, and baseball doesn't get enough love as to where basketball and football gets more love in sports on the national media. I got to give love to baseball in this sense. I got to give love to Willie Mays in this sense, and I got to go in on this.
I mean, are we talking sports, like on the field?
This topic says in all of sports.
In all of sports.
All of sports is why I go with Willie Mays. That's why I'm in.
I got that. And socially, I can't argue with that. You know, socially, and we know what took place when he was playing. It was insane, you know, and I don't disregard that at all. I just think that for me, my philosophy is it's hard for me to really, even though I sympathize with it, I've never been through that extreme. I've had my moments where I've been through something similar to it, but I've never been actually, you know, in his shoes. And it's hard for me to be like, okay, I can give this guy my vote of approval when I saw Kobe go from being a kid in high school all the way to being his 40-year-old dad, and what he was able to do and triumph over his career with his own scandals and, you know, everything else that he had going on. It was just like, you know, he had his own, you know, stuff that he triumphed through that the normal person can look at and say, oh, okay, I can get through this too. If Kobe did that, and even though he's on, you know, this upper echelon because he's in a world where more people can see him, the thing that he has done, I can look at it as an average person, not having the same stature or notoriety that he did, and say, okay, if I made mistakes or if I did this or I did that, I can have this different mindset and approach things in a different light. I think it's just for me, from what I've experienced and what I physically saw. If I saw Willie Mays, actually physically saw it as it was happening, I think I'll be more kind of towards that. But I had to go with Kobe. Had to.
Yeah, and like I said, we're close in age. I'm not that far off.
Mhm.
But I'm a history buff that watches like biographies and like Sports Century and stuff like that, and seeing the history of that. And I lived through, Kobe's experience. Now, if Kobe would have gotten to the tier of Jordan during his career and beat Jordan as far as the best basketball player to ever live, I would give it to you for this number with number 24. But he didn't knock Jordan off. LeBron hasn't knocked Jordan off, and that's why I can't give it to Kobe yet. If we were to do a top five list or hell, a top 3 to ever wear 24, I'd probably have Kobe at 2. And it was close, but we didn't do a list, and I had to go off a gut of who I feel is the best to ever wear 24. And I got to give it to Willie Mays, because Willie Mays wore 24 for his entire career. Kobe didn't. There's the tiebreaker. Kobe wore 8 for a while until he wanted to prove he can get another few more. And he did. He got 2 more. Good job for Kobe. But he didn't get 3. He didn't beat Jordan's record. He is better than LeBron still. Like, LeBron still hasn't beat Kobe, in my opinion. So Kobe's still better than LeBron currently, in my opinion, because he's got one more championship. He's still got more accolades. And until LeBron has an 80-point game, there you go.
It's kind of a rough topic for me. That's probably another topic for us for another day. Because
we're gonna have to bring that up another day. But you got to admit, I got some valid points there. You got to give.
Oh, you do. I won't argue with you on that. But I got some discrepancies with that.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Well, guys, welcome back, as we have now reviewed episodes 24 highlight round. And with that being the best to ever wear number 24, let's see what the comments were during that slide. And it looks like we got a couple from Ike Doesn't Give a Fuck is back in the building. Says Ken Griffey Jr. was the greatest to wear 24. Ken Griffey Jr. was a great, but he was not the greatest to wear 24. Hell, he didn't even wear 24 his entire career. Because when he went to the Reds, he shifted over to 30 because that's what is his dad's number, and that was the number he wanted to wear when he went to the Reds. So no, Ike, as we are live, I'm going to tell you that you are wrong, and when it comes to that opinion, because you have been kind of trollish throughout this motherfathering episode, I'm going to have to say this.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Now,
acknowledge me.
Because your take was so bad, because the next one that you said, Willie Mays stayed in the game too long. Yep, you're back to trollish status. And with that, when it comes to your opinion, Ike, we're officially here.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Come on, Ike. Let's get a little less trollish and a little bit more on topic now. We've gone through episode 24 as we go through episodes 21 through 30 in this special edition tonight. Let's go ahead and take this into episode 25, as we, at that point on July 18th of last year, Carson Wentz just came to the Washington Commanders during the offseason, and we talk about how his fit will be with the team. And I would have to say that I'm going to flex my shirt a little bit, because I feel like I was a little spot on with my take, and you will see here in this take for episode 25 as Joe Diller joins for the first time. We talk about Carson Wentz, the Washington Commanders, and the fudgery that was going on at that time. Let's go back to the Washington Commanders for this one last topic.
Final round.
And with this last round, we go back to, again, the Washington Commanders. And this time, like we were saying earlier, we would get back to the whole Carson Wentz discussion. Carson Wentz will become the quarterback that Terry McLaurin has been praying for in Washington. How do you feel about this, Joe? Are you in or are you out on this?
I am in. I feel like McLaurin, a 91 Madden rating right now. I'll use Madden for you guys out there as a referral. He's a great top 10 wide receiver. But if Carson can get the ball to him efficiently, downfield, consistently, I believe this marriage is going to make him go up to a 94. What does that entail for the NFL? That means he's going to be a top 7 receiver because he's already given credit for being in the top 10. I believe him and Justin Jefferson will have the biggest surges and jumps in overall ratings come forward from this season coming up. I also think that Terry McLaurin, if you just give him a shot, he's going to catch the ball. His catch radius is immaculate in regards to his hands. So just Carson knowing things like that should give him the chance to be that gunslinger he's always wanted to be. And hopefully Ron just keeps the leash on him good enough so that we can use it when it's necessary.
You know, you bring up some good arguments with that, but I have to respectfully disagree. I'm out. I have to bring up the fact that last season for the Colts, in one play, Joe, he snapped both of his ankles. He snapped both of his ankles in one play, Joe. I'm sorry. But on the same play, it's not like he hurt his one ankle earlier in the game or even last week and was like, I'm a tough son of a bitch. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to play through this pain and snap the other one. No. On the same play. It takes a special talent to snap both of your ankles on one play, my man. Come on. Come on. You really have this high hope for Carson Wentz? I would love to as a Washington Commanders fan, Washington football, as a whatever fan, but I've got to keep it 100 with you. Come on, man. Do you really think both of those ankles that supports all your weight, your feet support your weight, your legs support your weight, and if something goes bad with your wheels, that's important in football. You got to keep upright. Your wheels, I'm saying, and with your wheels, they keep you upright. So with your wheels, you've got to have good wheels to get yourself in football. You got to be mobile enough, especially running away from that offensive line with the Washington Commanders. I am out. I am out. Go back to your ranch, Carson Wentz. Get away from football. We got a better shot with Taylor Heineke.
Woo, we do. But Drew, let me just tell you this. I said it last year with Fitzpatrick, and I'm going to say it same with Carson. I need 11 games. It could be 10. Hell, I'll take 9 because Taylor showed he could do it. Give me 9 games. And then your knees and your ankles just don't want to do it no more. Then, you know, I find out we're the pit for quarterbacks then if that's the case. But I just need 9 productive games. And imagine 9 productive games with Carson Wentz and then 7 with 16? So 17 games. So 8 games again with Taylor Heineke, who he's familiar with already. I'm only speaking for Terry. You know, I can't speak for Carson. Carson may even have a butt fumble, but if Terry gets 120 grabs this year, Terry's winning. You know, his best quarterback before this was Taylor Heineke.
No, I can't disagree with that, but I have to disagree on why everybody is so hell. When it first happened, I at least got to admit, you can go back and watch some of the earlier episodes. I was in. I changed my mind.
I cringed.
I cringed, but at first I was actually in. But as I really sat back and I thought about it, I thought about the ankles. Just they're all holding up. You got to have wheels. Like I said, we need you to be that guy, Carson Wentz, but I just don't think he is. I think that Ty's right with his prediction in episode 12 when he said that Sam Howell was the real deal. I think that's better than Carson Wentz.
I wanted us to hold out and wait for Jimmy G. You want my honest opinion. I know he's injured as well, but I just want stability. I don't need a go-getter. I just want something constant and stable in Washington. We're not even getting that this year.
Sam Howell could be trade bait to help get Jimmy G at some point, but it might not be until next offseason until we actually see that happen. Yeah. I think that Baker Mayfield was probably the latest quarterback move we're going to see this offseason. I think Jimmy G's stuck, unfortunately. We're almost in August, dude. We're almost in August, and if Jimmy G even goes anywhere this late, he's not going to have as much success because with each passing day, he's losing preparation time.
And that's why they got Baker in Carolina for that purpose alone. That is the best quarterback competition this summer coming up in Carolina when it should be in San Fran.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Well, guys, right there, I believe I was pretty spot on with my analysis for Carson Wentz because he was absolutely trash.
What?
I said he was absolutely trash.
What?
He was so terrible for my commies.
Yeah.
To where when he was walking out the door his last game of the season, people were probably saying this as he was skipping on out the door.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It was absolutely terrible. Guys, let's see what kind of comments you have on this so far. Looks like we got one. Drew's reaction. Yes, my reaction to him being in on that statement. I'll tell you what, it was absolutely wild to discuss that one right there. Well, let's go ahead and take this into episode 26. And with episode 26, talk about Brandon Brown was wrong for calling out JR Motorsports after wreck at Road America. We take this into NASCAR, and Becca Cottingham-Quimby joins me for episode 26 here. And with this one, we'd go into a little bit of NASCAR action because she is the one who discusses NASCAR on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Let's go ahead and take it into episode 26, round 3.
Round 3.
With round 3, Brandon Brown was in the wrong for calling out JR Motorsports after wreck at Road America. And before we give our take on that, let's take a look at this clip from, seeing that clip. Brandon Brown was in the wrong for calling out JR Motorsports after wreck at Road America. How do you feel about this, Becca? Are you in or are you out on this?
I'm out.
Becca says she is.
I'm out because he's not the only one that called him out. Number 1. Number 2, Noah Gragson was in the wrong. And number 3, even Junior himself said Noah was in the wrong. And he needs to take it out of his bag of tricks. Boom! That's really all there is to the matter. Noah was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. Like, he just wrecked a whole bunch of cars that didn't need to be wrecked. First of all, he got his panties in a wad. Yes, I called them panties, and yes, I realize most men don't wear panties. But seriously, his boxers, his briefs, his whatever, even
it got twisted.
Something got twisted. He was mad. He was being rubbed the wrong way. He got angry. And so he got that anger pants going on. Yeah, we'll call him anger fire suit, maybe. We'll go with anger fire suit. I like that one better. Anger fire suit. The anger fire suit going on. And because he was rubbing against this other race car driver, or he was going against this one. Literally, that's what was happening. And he didn't like how he was being raced. The dude should have just kept going and stopped being the way he was. It was just a matter of keep driving and get away from him. Sometimes you just got to do that. You got to get away from the negativity or the driver that's just not doing what you want them to do. It's just like on the highway.
I concur with your thoughts, and that's why I got to go out on this as well. And with that, opens up our first installment of this.
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
Since we both disagree on this topic, we both get to see the Bishop Bullwinkle 7 seconds of awesomeness. No, but for real, right here, I mean, how can you agree with this? I mean, he definitely wasn't in the wrong. Noah Gragson was, basically hitting someone else and caused a 12-car pileup in front of, for no reason, just to make a move a little bit forward when he could have just waited just a couple seconds later and made the move, got around without having to cause such a big pileup in an accident. So selfish racing, selfish driving without thinking about. And that was pretty much it for that take right there when it came to episode 26 and us talking about that wreck. You saw pretty much more in the clip than you did from our insight. But want to review a couple comments that we have here, and it looks like Melvin says that was a pretty gnarly wreck. Followed by this one that I accidentally hit during the video and reacted to, and Ike. Ike said, "Who is this clown? Is she really an insider?" Yes, she is an insider. No, she is not a clown. But that was her take on that wreck there for that NASCAR race. And that's just basically how that was. Guys, we've now gone through episodes 21 through 26 of this special edition. Let's go ahead and take this into episode 27. In this one, we talked about Eddie George is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 27 in all of sports history back on July 25th of last year. And with that take, we take this into a very special discussion of the By the Numbers segment. And with this, on episode 27, it was Lamont Thomas and I for this round 4 topic. Lamont on here for the first time. Let's go ahead and take a look at Lamont's first time on the In or Out Sports Debate.
Round 4.
Yeah, sorry for technical difficulties, y'all, but we are here in round 4, and this is what I like to call the By the Numbers segment, which Eddie George is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 27 in all of sports. This is a pretty big one, LT. How do you feel about this when it comes to the number 27 of all time of all sports athletes? Are you in or out?
I'm in, bro. It's a tough one, but I'm in. Listen, got to give credit where credit is due, man. Eddie George, what a career, man. I mean, talking Heisman Trophy winner, Ohio State 95. You got 10,400 yards as a pro for the Tennessee Titans in that year. I think it was like the years of 96 to like 03, I think it was. 68 touchdowns. The man was absolutely crazy. Just a few seconds away from, being a Super Bowl champion, with the Rams. So got to give it to him, man. I do have some honorable mentions, though, just because by the numbers, right? Number 27, you got Scott Niedermeyer, right? New Jersey Devils, Hall of Fame, 4-time Stanley Cup champion, one of the best defensive scorers in the game. Get Steve Atwater, Denver Broncos, Hall of Fame, 8 Pro Bowls, 2-time Super Bowl champ. The safety, you got guys like Mike Trout, David Ortiz, 427. You got Scott Rowland, third base Cincinnati Reds, 8 Gold Gloves. You got some Jose Batista, Malcolm Jenkins, a lot of 27s out there, but I'm going to give it to Eddie George, man.
I've got to disagree. I'm out. LT, I cannot believe what I'm just hearing. Okay.
He knows
I love Eddie George. I love Eddie George. I love what he almost did with that Super Bowl. And if he would have got that Super Bowl with the Titans back in the day, I would probably be leaning more towards this because I love football over every sport, but I also love baseball. And I also love playing baseball. And you forgot one of the most important people to ever wore 27 in baseball. Catfish Hunter, who won 5 World Series.
Catfish Hunter. Yeah. Catfish Hunter. Nah, I did see that.
5 World Series. He won a World Series in 1972, 1973, and 1974, a three-peat with the A's, then one with the Yankees in 77 and 78, and had 8 All-Star appearances, won the Cy Young in 74. He was basically the king of the 70s.
Yeah, I mean the 70s is before my time, bro. I get it, and I should have mentioned it because actually I did pencil it in when I first was looking at stuff, but I was like, my list was so long, I was just like, I don't want to. But you're right, Catfish Hunter, man. I can't. You know what? Charge it to the game, man. Not my heart. Charge it to the game, not my heart, man. I'm sorry.
Whew, I'm
Catfish.
Sorry. I had flashbacks to Paul Schofield's episode when he was trying to talk about what I thought was Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I remember that.
NASCAR driver of all time. And he said Dale Sr., which I calmed down, but still, I immediately.
That was one of the best segments of all time. You got to bring that one back.
It was wild. Well, guys, what do you think right there? Who was the best to ever wear number 27? I got kind of animated when talking about Catfish Hunter over his pick of Eddie George, and it looks like we got Ike back in the house, and Ike says Eddie Lacy was the best to ever wear number 27.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
That's how I feel about your take, Ike.
You're a liar. Liar.
The side of this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
Yeah, dabble of this.
Stay off the weed.
All right, guys. So we've now gone through 27 of episodes now on the In-Or-Out Sports Debates reviewing of highlights. Since yesterday, we're going to go ahead and take this into episode 28 as we go through 30 episodes on this special edition. And with this one, we discuss Remember the Titans should be considered as the greatest sports movie of all time. And this is a segment I definitely want to bring back on this show. We may do something similar to this when we go through all the numbers eventually. But with this, in episode 28, we had James Brown on here for a second time. James was filled in during the first 20 episodes and now is back for episode 28. And with this one, we talk about the best movie of all time when it comes to sports movies. And do you agree with us here when we discuss the Remember the Titans movie as one of the best of all time? 3.
Round 3.
Here with this one, James. This one's a special one. Remember the Titans should be considered as the greatest sports movie of all time. Fans, what do you think? We're almost at the midway point. The medial mayhem is going to be here after this round. What do you think? Do you guys think that the Remember the Titans should be considered as the greatest sports movie of all time? James, what do you feel about this? Are you in or are you out?
I'm in, man. I mean, definitely, man. I'm in. I mean, how could you not hold Remember the Titans up there as one of the greatest of all time? I mean, from the acting to the story itself. And, you know, a bit of a homer take, but, you know, it took place here in Virginia, up at TC Williams, up in Northern Virginia, man. But, I mean, it's a great story, and it also happens to involve a game that we all love, football, and it involves sports. But just the story itself, bringing men together from different walks of life to come together to accomplish a common goal of being perfect out there on that field. I mean, that's a movie that you can take so much away from, not only from a sports perspective, but how we should go about living our lives as individuals as well, man. So great story, great acting. I mean, I hold it up there as one of the highest, man. So I'm in all the way.
I like your take and everything. I disagree, and you'll see why here in a second. With everything you said about it being in Virginia and the story and everything behind it, I love the movie. It's in my top 3 of all time. I really wanted to put this at 1. However, I have to disagree. I'm going out. I've got Remember the Titans at 3, and I remember back in 8th grade, because it was the year 2000. That's how old I am. I was in 8th grade back then, and we got to watch Remember the Titans in one of our classes, in our history class or civics class, something like that, for like 2 or 3 days. It was broken down to where we could watch 40 minutes. And I fell in love with it. I didn't get to go to the movie theater and see it, but I remember reading about the story and stuff, you know, growing up being a sports buff, even as a young kid. And it was one of my favorite movies of all time. But if I were to say the greatest sports movie of all time, I got to go with A League of Their Own. With the way they showed the women's sports filling in for a while. The men were at war back in World War II, and how that basically took place of the MLB and kept baseball alive for that short period of time. Tom Hanks and the other actors and actresses in that movie made that movie. Number 2, I'm sticking with baseball as well. Bull Durham. Bull Durham is my number 2. Just because you get to see the minor league system and just Kevin Costner and the other actors and stuff in there within that movie. I believe that's 2. I got Remember the Titans at 3. Field of Dreams at 4, even though it's not really like a sports team movie, but, you know, it's still the story behind that. And then I got to go Friday Night Lights at 5. So that's if I were to have a quick top 5 off the top of my head. I didn't even write this list beforehand. This is just like a quick from the heart top 5 if I were to rattle them off for this one. That's why I can't say Remember the Titans is number 1, because with the other ones that I mentioned before that and before and after, I got to put them right smack in the middle. Great story, not taking anything away from the movie itself. One of the best of all time, but in my opinion, I just can't put it at 1.
Okay. Okay.
So
we'll have to agree to disagree on that, but I got you. I feel you.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. So what do you guys think about that as far as the best sports movie of all time? As we just went through episode 28's topic, it looks like we got a few more comments here, and it looks like, oh wow, Ike says He Got Game is the best sports movie of all time.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Wow. That's all I got to say. Even Melvin saying He Got Game with a bunch of question marks. You're definitely smoking something, Ike. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Please
stay off the weed.
You're hurting it out there for those out there who absolutely need it, okay? A League of Their Own is a great movie, but not the best in my opinion. Hey, that's my opinion. Everybody else does have a different opinion. He Got Game is definitely a horrible opinion when it comes to best sports movie of all time. Sorry, Ike, but even Melvin agrees with me on that one. It's tough to pick the best one because there are so many. Yeah, I'll give you that statement right there. I'll agree with that because there are so many great sports movies out there, and I was able to rattle off my top 5. I mean, that's just how, there are so many sports movies out there and how easy it is to have a top 5. It is tough to decide what's 1, 2, 3, and even on down the line on 4 to 5, or even if you have a top 10. So, well, that's what we have for episode 28. Keep the comments coming, and we'll keep bringing them up. As looks like you guys have been doing a pretty decent job of keeping up with me, and I appreciate that. It's helping me stick with it as well. As we now move into episode 29, talking about Freddie Freeman's former agent should be barred from client representation going forward after how he misrepresented Freddie during that offseason. We're going to take this into that episode 29 and discuss that as it was the first ever Trios edition. And Darrell Owens and Jeremiah Quimby for his solo appearance as well in here make their first ever Trios edition appearance. It was the first ever Trios edition in general. Let's see what we got to talk about here for round 2.
Round 2.
And I say that wholeheartedly as a Braves fan, guys. Freddie Freeman's former agent should be barred from client representation going forward. Look at this graphic right here before you even get started. I mean, this says it all. This is I took this out of the picture moment when he was back in Atlanta for the first time, and for his agent to do what he did to him, it was pretty tough just to see that, whether you're a fan of his or not. How do you feel about this, Jay? Are you in or out on that? On his agent should be barred?
Nah, I'm kind of split, but I'm gonna say I'm in, because you got to tell your client you're representing that person, so you got to put it all on the table. And after seeing that, like when I first heard that he was leaving, I couldn't believe it. That it just didn't make sense to me, because you knew where his passion and his love was, and his loyalty has always been there. And I will not bat an eye at the fact that next year he'll be back with the Braves.
So Jay's in and is strongly saying that he thinks that he's going back to the Braves next year. Before we get into my take, Darrell, how do you feel about this? Do you agree? Are you in or are you out?
I debated this all week, Drew. I really did. We got the topics last week. I was like,
That's why I try to pump them out as fast as I can. That way, in case you guys got any ideas and changes.
No, you good.
To think about it. Yeah,
you did the right thing. You did the right thing. I was debating it all week, and I'm in. The thing that bothered me the most about this, and we talked about it when you saw, that picture, the graphic that you posted, like he was so hurt, and you can see it in his eyes that he wanted to. He wanted to still be in Atlanta, and for his agent to do him like that, look, man, it was dirty. I would love to see him go back to Atlanta because I love that loyalty factor. I mean, he was there when they were struggling, when the Braves had went from being that great team. He was there struggling. He got to this point, and now that they're world champs. And I just hate for the fact that he didn't even get the opportunity to say yes or no, or to say he was in or out on going back to the Atlanta Braves. So I mean, I'm in. I mean, his agent ought to be ashamed of himself. Shame.
Way to use that pun, man. I like that. You did well. I love that. But and I was going back and forth with this. He should be barred, in my opinion. I mean, this is dirty dealings right there for you to put your trust in someone that's going to help you sign your deals, your livelihood for your family, for your friends, for yourself. It's no matter what I'm doing. Like, I spend my time to do stuff, and I just like my video productions. I do the damn best job I can because I want to provide entertainment for whoever's watching this, whether it's 1 or 100 people. Okay, all of you that spend time to watch this, it's all for entertainment. It's the same thing when they go out there and they play baseball. But they can't do it 100% wholeheartedly when they know this is how their business dealings were done, and they're going out there playing false hopes for a team that they wanted them, but he didn't necessarily want to be there. It's not their fault. But he would love to be in Atlanta. That's where he started out. That's where he just got a ring. He was a fan of the Braves his entire life. So when you find out that what you thought your team didn't match the deal, of course, for your livelihood, you're going to go LA. Then you come back that first trip back and you find out the truth, the hard truth. That's tough, man. That's really, really hard to swallow. And of course, you're going to fire your agent. And of course, nobody else should trust you in that moment because you just did a slide dealing for yourself to get a bigger cut of the pie. The agent got more money that way if he took that deal. And even though the Braves would have matched it, that's the sad part. The Braves told him we would have matched that number, and we came back with it. But you didn't take that number because of what the agent did. So you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and you gotta choose wisely with your representation and what you thought your trust was in someone to do that. And you couldn't do that. And unfortunately, that's why you got to let him go. And this guy should be treated like Pete Rose was treated when he got caught for gambling. That's not even that big of a deal now in 2022. Betting on your own team, yes. But the fact that he was gambling and you treated him that way, and this guy did what he did to Freddie, he should never be allowed to represent anybody else.
Exactly. And you said the perfect word, represent. Your agent represents you. And for him to do that 100% he needs to be gone.
As you know, the crazy thing about it, I saw the other day that he's suing Doug Godley because I guess Godley was the one that, dropped the hammer on this. So the agent is suing him because of, everything that's going on. It's your fault. Like, it's your fault, bro. Like, you did this to this man. You're mad because you got exposed, and that's the way you're going to respond to that? Man, get out of here with that crap, bro. Get out of here.
If LeBron James is going to leave our boy Snowman alone for his bronze sexual segment on his show, then you need to leave this man alone because all he did was drop straight facts. So if LeBron's leaving Snowman alone, then you got to leave. You got to let this go, dude.
Snowman
You're in the wrong.
LeBron,
all right.
Snowman hates LeBron.
Yeah, he so hates LeBron, man. When I was on the show last time, I was like, I don't like LeBron, but I'm kind of uncomfortable even hating on him this much, Snowman. Like, I hating on this bad. Like,
yeah,
of course, MJ is number one, but we got to tone it down a little bit. But what do you guys think when it comes to that topic right there for episode 29, talking about Freddie Freeman's agent? Should be barred. Looks like we got one relatively relevant comment that says that agent was, is, and always will be a joke. Yes, I agree with that, Melvin. Definitely. Yeah, that was just absolutely terrible how he represented him. And that was a good clip to have from that show right there from episode 29. So let's go ahead and take this into the final highlight of this special edition episode. And with that being said, we're going to take it to episode 30. Ellis Pollard, professional wrestler, was on here for his first appearance on July 26th of last year. And the independent scene has suffered tremendously as a result of the ongoing pandemic at that time. Let's go ahead and see what old Ellis Pollard, a.k.a. Salvation, to those of you out there who know him as a wrestler, had to say when it came to this topic on episode 30 for the final round.
Final round.
And this is definitely one that hits home for him, and that is the independent scene has suffered tremendously as a result of the ongoing pandemic. And with your experience, with this, for the ongoing time like we've discussed, how do you feel about this? Are you in or are you out on this statement?
In. Yes, sir. So you got to look at it like this. What we talked about earlier, I would consider myself part-time. I'm older. I'm just being smart about it, really. I don't have a point. I'm not going to try to make it to face Roman Reigns at a WrestleMania. I'm not going to WWE. So if you take all these independent scene, by the way, it's different layers of it. You have some places that have get bigger audiences. You get some places that get you might have 5-10 people, as opposed to other places that might have 40, 50 to 100 or 1,000, So if you take all of that and you just take the equation out, well, some of these people, this is all they do. They don't do a second job or a part-time job or a full-time job and do wrestling part-time. Some of them, this is their life and career. They travel all around the country, all around the world, and they make a lot of money off their merchandise, this, that, the other. When everything shuts down, it was like everything else, especially in, say for I work in dentistry. Couldn't do anything. We couldn't do anything for 3 months. We had to rely on some other kind of way to get income, state stuff, like state money. So, had to go fill out the paperwork and see what they could send you until, the unemployment come through and everything. So I'm not sure what all these guys and girls did during that time, who rely on that, financial income. Did they have to go back to work or find another job or what? I would like to talk to some of them to see, just to get an idea. And for me personally, being I was doing it part-time, it didn't affect me from the industry or wrestling standpoint, but I've been around people and talked to people somewhat locally. And I was really at that point myself, right now I'm 47. So it's a couple of years ago, it's mid 40s. I was kind of man, I should be done with this now. I was really considering it. It plays in your head sometimes. I probably shouldn't be doing this now anyway, after the pandemic. And the only thing that really changed my mind, to be honest with you, on a personal level, I had a guy who was a close friend of mine, and he started training at GXW, Ground Zero Wrestling Training Academy, after me, mind you. So I was there way before him. He got on shows before I did. He just had the charisma and he just got it. Name was Pork Chop Johnson, John Johnson, rest in peace. He passed away. I found out, I think it was a few months afterwards. I didn't know. So it was during the pandemic. Yeah, that was a tough one right there. That one hit home hard. I mean, I was bathroom one night, and I don't cry much, but that it just hit me because he was such a great guy. He would always check on me, you got stuff to work on here. Call me up when you get a chance. I'm gonna talk to you about something. He held us responsible. So find out that he passed away, I was like, damn, I can't stop now. We used to always joke, my first match is going to be my retirement match. I'm going to go do the match, and then I'm going to announce my retirement. It's going to be debut retirement. I used to joke about that all the time. And the sad thing is, it almost sounded like that came true. I was like, man, well, in my head, I'm done with it. But when I found out he passed, it's like, hell no, I'm not done with it. I got to do this, if nothing else, for him, for his spirit. It gave me a new light to continue on. And I can honestly feel like I would never be as charismatic as him. He opens up the room. It's a few guys I know that do that, like Ace Montana, several people that just have that spark that the fans just love it. You can't hate them. And just that alone, I was like, man, I just can't stop now. Then that's where the other stuff clicked. Well, I got to help these other people become that. You know what I mean? So the pandemic changed a whole lot of that. People couldn't really go train, especially here in Virginia, because it's regulated. They didn't allow it. So I feel like some people might have had to find their way kind of on their own. And in that content, I think that it killed a lot of people's momentum if they were going through stuff. It might have gave them a break physically for a minute, of course, whatever they were doing on their own, because a lot of the gyms was shut down. I even had to get my own equipment, start getting stuff off Facebook Marketplace, Dick's Sporting Goods, if they had flow models or whatever. And I often wonder, what did a lot of these people do until they got back to do what they love doing? I think a lot of the promotions might have suffered. It's not like they had big Vince McMahon money. stuff like that. So I think it really took a while to come back up, because first they were doing stuff that people shooting videos with no audience. Of course, like same as like you saw SmackDown and Raw. Of course, they had the little screens up there with the fans on. I thought that was great. But the indies, they can't do that. Like they can do a lot of things, but they don't have that money to, keep producing shows and stuff like that. A lot of them do shows that's pay-per-view quality shows, but on a smaller scales compared to the big leagues. Honestly, I think when it started coming back up, it ramped up pretty quickly as the train got to rolling. But I'm thinking it's a lot of people that just didn't get back like they were before all of the pandemic happened, and you got all the safety concerns and such, and it just make you think like that's not just wrestling. That's like that was across the board in a lot of places like the restaurant industry, and it's harder to get. I don't know about wrestling, but it was harder for them to get people that wanted to still do that, work with the public. Wrestling, I mean, it's a contact sport. You got to get in there. You trusting what you're in there with, whatever that may be. And then you got the fans and the crowds and the audience. You got little kids out there. So like, I'm pretty sure some of that audience got affected. Like I know a lot of shows I did more so recently was majority of them were outside. Like the one we did last weekend, and it was great. Hot as I don't know what, but it was, it was that extra layer of, I want to say protection, because you're more outside than closed in some place. And some of those places we wrestling are pretty small. Some of them are pretty big. It depends on the venue. So I think going forward, now that we went through that and got through that, we would know more so how to handle precautions and stuff. You know what I mean? So hopefully nothing like this happens again, but you just never know.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's hard to prepare for something like what we experienced in 2020. It was absolutely nuts, and I hope we never go through it again. We're still technically dealing with it, but for everything that what you've said, I've got to agree. I'm in on this as well. I'll admit I recycled this topic from episode 14 with the Golden Boy Greg Anthony when he was here, because he's also another one who's experienced this. He's actually, like you were saying, a part-time wrestler, but he's the booker for Pro Wrestling Mid-South in Tennessee. So in that Tennessee territory, and he had a lot of things that were very similar to what you've said. You guys are on the very same page with a lot of what you were saying in the first and the first topic and the last one were from that episode. The other ones we had from recent discussion. But with that, I wanted to get your insight on that. And you guys are so neck and neck with the same insights with that. You guys, it's because you've experienced it. Like he knows a little bit more into it because, like you said, you're doing the part-time and you're doing the dental assistant stuff as well, which is great because you're giving back to people as well, with their health too. I mean, your teeth are very important. So definitely kudos to you for picking a profession where you're able to give back as well too. So very big highlight to you for that. With Greg, he not only does professional wrestling, part-time, but he's a full-time booker. So he's got the insight, a little bit more dived into, but everything that what you're saying, he's living it. So you guys are still on the same page with everything because you've experienced it all and been in between the ropes. And it's hard with the way the pandemic has shut stuff down. Like you said, we're in Virginia. Regulations were different in Virginia what they were in Tennessee. And he even brought that up in episode 14 and said, with what I had where I was only shut down for like 90 days, you guys were shut down a lot longer than that.
We can do about a year.
He was only shut down for 90 days, man. I believe it. I may be a little bit off, but it was very close. I want to say something wild, outlandish, like everything was getting shut down in March and he was back up and running by June or mid-July or something like that. And when I really think about that, it's like their restrictions were much different there than here, but we're near the heart of it where we're closer to the Big Apple and stuff like that. There's a lot more traffic that comes through our way than there really is when you really think about it.
That's true.
So when you put all that into perspective, of course, because we're so close to, DC and stuff like that, where we get the higher levels of exposure they want to say or whatever BS they want to throw at us that week. It was so wild to go through that experience. It's still wild to go through it now and watching people double mask up and stuff. It's like wearing 2 diapers, man. Like, what is that really going to do? Like, what is that really? So many things. And the people that have their mask on their rear view mirrors too. And then they put it on their face like it's collecting dust, dude.
They shouldn't be doing that at all. I can tell you about that. And the funny thing is, man, my gimmick before, way before this, back in the day, I started out, and you know, we had a lot of rides, a lot of racial, a lot of stuff going on. I used to have a gas mask when I came out. And then after I got rid of this, I had sort of one of those masks that's like a scarf that you could pull up. And it was pre-pandemic. So I was like, dang, I hope I'm not a prophet, because it was almost surreal though. It was creepy. Like, I was like, damn, I was doing all of this stuff and teasing that way before this happened. Like, sometimes real life or reality and wrestling meet together. And like we was talking about earlier, that's the best storyline. It's like, you know, it's real.
Hey, like we discovered, we don't live too far away from each other. If you got a hidden DeLorean over there, I'm gonna be coming over soon. Let's go back in time or go to the future. Like, you know, we need to be using this DeLorean for the good things and help us out and give back to the community too. But we need to help ourselves out too. Let's get this DeLorean up and running. I may have a flux capacitor laying around here somewhere. We could figure this thing out, get this done, my man. So what do you guys think right there about our take when it came to this topic right here for the pandemic and how it affected professional wrestling? It definitely was something to behold as, well, I wouldn't say behold, probably the wrong choice of words, but it's definitely something that we had to deal with as a whole, United States, around the world when it came to the pandemic, and it affected people in different ways. Looks like Melvin says, I bet it was tough for EP. Good on him for having a safe career outside of his passion to support himself and his family. That speaks volumes right there. Pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, post-pandemic. He's still doing his thing out there as a dental assistant, and it's still definitely good that he's giving back and making an impact out here with his career. So, well, that's episodes 21 through 30 right there. We've discussed all 21 through 30 highlights between those episodes. And when we look back on it, this is the graphic that we have here. Everybody in this graphic was showcased in this 21 through 30 episodes tonight. Stay tuned, as here in a little bit, in about an hour and a half, we have at 11:05 p.m. Eastern time, the best of episodes 31 through 40. I will be back to bring that one to you. So just as you're getting ready to tuck yourself into bed, if you're a night owl like myself, you can check out the best of episodes 31 through 40 as we celebrate the road through 100 episodes. We reached 100 episodes last week. It is time to celebrate as we just finished episodes 21 through 30. And up next here at 11:05 tonight, we have episodes 31 through 40. Everybody stay tuned. But until then, we have one semi-badass outro to look at on our way out the door. I am Drew Willingham. Everybody stay safe out here in these streets.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.